Welcome to Locked On UConn Live. The Huskies made a statement with a true road win while other traditional powers struggled, you might have noticed. Guess what? You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just want to take a moment to say how grateful we are for all of you, whether you're joining live or just casually checking in every once in a while. Couldn't do it without you. The podcast is growing exponentially. We're proud to say that we're the only UConn podcast that does both the men's and women's basketball, as well as a little football here and there, and truly covers the basketball capital of the world the way you deserve to have it. And to show our gratitude, we're giving back. We're taking 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games, both men's and women's, and also making a monthly donation to Bleeding Blue for Good. So we're supporting the NIL initiatives as well. If you're enjoying the content, please take a moment to subscribe, follow, leave a comment, whatever you want to do. You can even leave a negative comment. It's all good. Guess what? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return by starting at FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. We got a lot of people waiting. I can see my guy Dan backstage to jump on and join me on this show. UConn put on a clinic in this game. It wasn't always pretty, but it was prettier than what we've seen. It was a little more aesthetically pleasing, especially from the offensive standpoint, than what we've seen from this team to start. It was a 76-65 wire-to-wire victory. They never trailed over the Texas Longhorns on the road. That is impressive in and itself. It's tough to do when you play a team that's not a top-tier SEC Big 12 program, but it was done collectively, right? Led by a balanced scoring attack. You had Alex with 21 and 11, his first ever double-double. How is that even possible? Solo Ball had 16 points and is one of the reasons why people give me crap about saying that he should be the first guy off the bench. But defensively, he played better tonight. Samson Johnson, although saddled with a bunch of phantom fouls and fouls that he probably committed, had 12 points, nearly flawless from the shooting. He was 6-7. And our old pal, Hassan Diarra, who we probably give a little too much. I wouldn't say, I can't say what I want to say because we're live and I got in trouble for swearing another time. So Hassan Diarra, 11 assists, probably should not be shooting the buzzer beaters at the half or at the end of the game. But look, this Texas team is talented. But what UConn did is what they did to almost every team last year that had the one alpha, which is okay, you average 21 points a game. You're going to get your 21. Maybe you get a couple more points. In this case, Trey Johnson had 24 points. He had a bunch of great shots in the second half, got himself going. And that was about it. I mean, Arthur Kaluma, who I kind of thought was similar to Norchad Omier from a physical perspective, also got a little going a little bit, hit a couple threes. But for the most part, this was the Trey Johnson show, and that's okay with us. I honestly thought that was going to be the profile when we played Memphis. Is okay, if your guards are going off, but we're going to shut down everybody else. The problem is Memphis shot about as hot as Trey Johnson the entire game. So UConn did a much better job closing out, playing better defense, even though we had some fouls. Terrace Reed was great off the bench, 12 points and 5 rebounds. Really solidified himself as, as Dan calls him, Mr. Efficient. And because I said that, let's get Dan in the program right now. What do you think? What's up, my guy? How are you?
How we doing? How are you?
Good, yourself?
Our guys have officially got their mojo back. We pick up our second quad one win in a week with one out-of-conference game to go against Gonzaga next weekend in Store South. I can't wait for that one. I thought they played great tonight. I thought Hassan had a really difficult matchup defensively. They kind of had him out there all night guarding Trey Johnson, who's one of the best freshmen in the country. That guy might be a top 5 pick.
You know what it reminded me of, Dan? And not to put too fine a point about it, but last year when we're in the national championship game and we had this great defensive player named Donovan Clingan, and they had this All-American and National Player of the Year named Zach Edey. And we said, you know what? If Zach Edey puts up 30 plus, but they're complementary players,
feed into the game plan. Yep.
That's kind of what they did. But that's all Texas really did is they tried to put Haas. But when Haas started to bother Trey a little bit, they tried to put him in pick and roll to get Caravan, Liam, others, and that's how he kind of got going. But the reality is, that's okay.
He was a pest. He was a pest all night. It's almost like the opposite of a box and one, right? They kind of let their UConn lets their premier guy just go off. And he was awesome. But Hassan was in his shirt all night long. Come the second half, he got it going. Trey Johnson did probably first 10 minutes of the second half was the best run they had. UConn, I thought, had really good timely timeouts in this game where they sensed the run coming, and Hurley kind of calls the TO when he sees some not sloppy play, but Texas might have a little something going. I think he knew that that offense does not move a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of motion on offense. There was a couple possessions where there's some hero ball type stuff going on with Trey, and just not a whole lot of motion from the rest of the guys on the floor for Texas. But I want to highlight, he went out early again with a couple fouls, but I thought one of them was kind of ticky-tack. Samson Johnson was awesome tonight. He was awesome. The second half, the way that they came out running pick and roll with him, I think they had 4 or 5 screen and roll for either layups or dunks. Hassan found him on a lob and a couple other bounce passes under the hoop. Just easy buckets to start the second half. They kind of just put Texas in a hole to start that second half. I just thought he was awesome tonight. He came into this evening, let me pull it up real quick, shooting 80. He's shot 90% from the floor in his last 5 games, and he finished 6 of 7 again tonight. He hasn't missed more than 1 shot in 6 games now. So I thought he was awesome. I thought it was a story of the night. He gets relieved by Terrace on a couple instances in the second half where Terrace again on the offensive boards. He doesn't always come down with the ball. He's just a pest. He's just boxing out. There's a couple plays on the baseline where he just he forces the issue. He gets his hands on the ball and a couple of those get hits the fingers of the Texas guys and it goes off and we get the ball. That's just what you look for in a backup center. And he was just awesome again tonight.
Yeah. Before we get our first guest on, I'm going to break and do a quick ad, but I'm going to say something really quick, which is, look, this idea that I said this earlier in the year, where if they wanted to do a 3-headed monster with Youssef getting some minutes, it's not a bad idea, but it's also like, it's the same thing with the 2 big lineup. Because I got a bunch of comments on YouTube and social media about that. People in my DMs being like, I told you we should go 2 bigs. Actually, you should probably listen to the press conferences because Dan Hurley hates doing 2 bigs. He hates it, guys. Like it's not something that he's going to do. It's fine if we get in foul trouble and you put in Youssef to get 4 fouls in like 6 minutes. Just to give these guys,
you almost keep it in the back pocket as an ace card, maybe.
Yeah, I have no issue. I want to put this back up there. This is JR, but I saw some chatter online about how 15 fouls is better than 2.
15 to give,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's just it's simple math. But can we stop talking about how they need to go like Terrace and Samson or Terrace and Youssef? 2 bigs is never going to be a part of what this team wants to do. Do you see the movement that this team did for the most part? They started this game up on a 22-6 run, and they built that lead because they do constant motion offense. It's not going to happen if you don't have a shooting option at the 4. So with Alex back, take away the 2 big lineup. Everyone relax, take a deep breath. It was cool for one 10-minute stretch,
and it's not something they can't ever go back to.
Exactly, and if they ever get into serious foul trouble again, they can potentially do that. But they probably still won't do that. So just take that for what it is. All right, let me take a quick break so we can get this out of the way, and then we'll be back. I'm going to get Doug, and then Tyler, then Bernie, then Matt. All right, that's the lineup. Let me go to my trusty ad, and we'll talk about it right after the break. I'm sure you guys have watched a bunch of football so far with FanDuel. Guess what? if you're a new customer, FanDuel offers you $150 in bonus bets if you place a $5 bet and you win it. You get those bonus bets that kind of get you going. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Like right now, you have Duke and Louisville are playing right now live. I would imagine if we went and looked at the live score, let's see where we're at. Okay, Duke's up 6. So look, right now, you could probably get that at like -5. As a matter of fact, let me look at it right now. It's 4.5. So if you can get Duke live at -5, -6, or you can get Louisville at +6 because Duke has been pretty bad all game. Kind of the momentum is switching to the Blue Devils. You never know, but this is where you can do it. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, where you get all of your live stats and you can watch the game right on your phone or wherever you place your bets. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn. Let's get Dan back in here. What's up, my guy? And we're going to do, Doug, you were first. I'm going to put you on. Let's go, bro. What you got?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good yourself?
Great. First half, exactly how you want to see a game played. It was just a really good half. Second half, obviously, Texas came out strong. It was a little sloppy, but listen, they didn't give in. And I think that's the big thing. Even though Texas made a run, they did not give in. They did not let it get tied. They didn't even let it get close. I think the closest it got was maybe 8 points. I'm not sure.
8,
I know it's
8, yeah.
So that was good. The only few comments I have for tonight is one, I just hope they look a little bit on work on these passes. Some of them just frustrated. They seem a little sloppy. Mahaney made where they're just trying to force it, I think, or they feel like they're in practice and the other teams are jumping the passes. So, it's hopefully they work on that. And I'm not a fan. I mean, I understand having the 3 centers. I think we play a lot better with just 2 of them, though. I mean, Singari is great to have, like you said, in our back pocket, but we play much better with just the 2 other guys out there. So hopefully they can work on that a little bit. And last but not least, I think everybody on social media and in the press, whatever, we don't have to say the M word anymore. I think that's long gone and behind us. And if you looked at Hurley tonight, the way he's coaching this team, he's changed. He changed the way he's coaching this team, and it's working. It's working immensely. And I think hopefully people will start noticing that change and giving them some credit for doing so. But that's what I got for tonight.
Yeah, no, it's
Thank you.
Good stuff, Doug. I'm going to drop you off, but I will respond to some of that stuff right now. And I would say that you're spot on. Like, look, I don't think anyone really. I love Youssef. He's a vibes guy. Like, he is loved by his teammates. He's a good body to put in there. He's almost 7 feet tall. It's not like you can't plug him in and get good minutes as we did tonight. We saw tonight, but no one wants to see that because if you do, I mean, it just means that Sampson and Terrace are both in foul trouble. Like, it's just not. He's
the
behind
ceiling.
them.
The ceiling of this team and where they ultimately want to get. They know they have a wealth of talent and scoring talent on the wings. It's
Right.
You almost wish they've kind of got a little logjam there. They're looking for either Stewart, Jay Stu, or one of the other wings to kind of step up and try to provide either more scoring or just more of a presence consistently on offense and defense. But they've got Hassan at the guard position. They've got Mahaney, who they're trying to unlock a little bit. They need to get a little bit more at guard so that they can go to these more wing-heavy lineups. I think that they'd rather have Sampson and Terrace playing about 20 minutes offset with more wing scoring. So I think that the ceiling ultimately of this team, if they really want to do some special things come March and April, that's going to be who the identity of this team on offense needs to be. So we'll see how it plays out throughout the season.
I agree. And sorry for dropping off there for a second. the whole like slide the mouse kind of knocked me into into out of the studio. But anyway, no, I agree. Like I think the thing is, before we get Tyler in here is, and I'm going to put this up there because this is actually what I was trying to do is, look, I think Aiden obviously didn't play well tonight, but guess what? He didn't play a lot. You're looking at
didn't play much. I think
part of that is because
Diarra had an assignment
really well. Haas
awesome.
played really well. So like, you know, if you're behind these guys and they're cooking, there's no need to play.
It doesn't matter. Hurley said it in his
media.
Hurley said in the media availability this past week, minutes are easy for me. If you're playing well, you don't come out of the game.
Look at Tyler. With a wreath behind you, you're muted. Hold on, let me get you in here.
Happy holidays, my
Look
friend.
at you, happy holidays, my guy.
Oh yeah, the wreath, yeah.
Yeah, man, I love
it. Yeah, no. So by far their best game from Haas. You know, Sampson played really good against Baylor, but he also played really well. The second half, I think Doug said it. Yeah, I thought they played really well. A lot of easy baskets. You know, they're finding the rollers, finding cutters. That's what you like to see. Baylor is definitely a better team, but I feel like we wanted to see this win. Like Baylor, I felt comfortable they're going to win because it was at home.
Right.
This is a lesser team, but I think we needed to see them go out and play good basketball outside their home environment. So that was good to see.
First win for a non-conference opponent in that stadium, by the way, in the last couple of years.
22
really?
tries.
So that's a tough environment.
Yeah, and I think, Dan, you said, like, they're playing a lot of hero ball. Like, I don't know how good of a coach that guy is, that Rodney Terry. Like, well, yeah, I sent you a clip, Mark. Like,
I saw it.
You're just set. Like, there was no motion on offense on that one play, and they just throw it to Trey Johnson. He's a great player, but like, this isn't the NBA. You can't ride a guy. You know, you see this happen in the tournament, right? A team will get hot, win 2 or 3 games, but that's all you can do. You cannot win more than that. Like,
You've seen a couple teams, to your point. You've seen more than one team. I've watched a lot of these teams in the top 10. I've watched a lot of their games to start the season. Many of them have now started to adopt the constant motion offense because they realize there's no way you're going to start knocking off the champs, the 2-time champs in a row, unless you adapt to this modern day style perimeter, constant motion. Like, people don't understand when you are constantly, especially more so in UConn, because there's not many rosters that have 8, 9, 10 guys that they can just plug in with no drop off with the second unit. UConn does not stop moving on offense. Do you know how draining that is for a defense?
So hard, yeah.
So it's draining on the defensive end for the other team. But then when they come down on the offensive end, their legs are shot. In the second half, you get to the 35th minute, and these guys have no lift on their jump shots. The ball staying on the perimeter. You're not getting much inside because you're exhausted. Not easy to play against 9 different guys who are constantly cycling in, who aren't getting tired on the other end. It's hard.
Yeah, let me put this in there because William put this out there, and like I'm not trying to crap on Haas or anything like that because I thought he did a good enough job on Trey Johnson, but like we talked about it in the opening, it doesn't matter. It's not just Haas and it's not just the Kling and Edey example. A great example is the Seton Hall game last year at home, where we beat them by 30 points. You had Steph Castle for the most part, Tristan Newton on I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But it wasn't Kadari Richmond. It was their shooting guard. And I could look it up really fast, but it doesn't matter. He was averaging 20-something points a game. And guess what? Seton Hall is another one of these teams with Shaheen Holloway, who really doesn't run a complex offense, does a lot of dribble drive, does a lot of ISO. And it was like, okay, if you want to put people in pick and roll and like get mismatches and get post-ups and get 20, 25 points from one player, cool. We're good with that. Dan is good with that. Luke is good with that. Kamani, Tom, the whole team. And as long as you have the team that is disciplined, like UConn has been in these games with these 1-star teams, then UConn has typically come ahead on top. And the reason, and so I made it a point to say, like, he scored 24 points, but who cares? And then this guy Williams, like, are you mad? I'm not mad. We won. Like, but that's the fact. Like, it doesn't matter. He could have scored 44. And he probably would have needed 50 to win. Like, if we're being honest.
But on top of that, they were up. At no point did it ever feel like UConn was not going to win that game. They were up by 15, 16 at the half. And when Texas went on their run, they were taking these like deep like fadeaway jumpers or like these like very low percentage threes. And I think I messaged you. I was like, Texas is getting so lucky right now. And I was betting the live line on UConn, but that ended up backfiring.
UConn is for the last 2 years, I have called them a boa constrictor. They slowly squeeze the life out of you over the course of 40 minutes.
And
it's usually last year it was by the 25th minute you were just cooked. Sometimes by 30th. This year it's usually the 35th minute. But they just have so many guys that they can keep cycling in to just drain the life out of you. When you only have 6 or 7, 8 playable guys, it's just really tough to sustain over a 40-minute period. UConn moves up significantly in the Ken Palm after this game. They were, I think, 25th before the game. They moved up to 13th, and now the third. They have the third best offensive rating in the country.
Yeah,
so,
still a weak schedule, but yeah.
But these guys, as long as the team is able to practice, they're going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. So but 2 observations. So I agree. Like Yusuf, Yusuf looked pretty slow, so it is a little concerning if these guys are getting in foul trouble. So that's the one thing is like these bigs have got to stop fouling. And the other thing is we played 9 guys tonight, but we had 3 guys with 35 plus minutes. Alex played the full 40, and then you had Solo played 33. So I know we're supposed to be deep, but are you concerned? I mean.
I think they came in.
They're not getting Stewie in more. Like, why is Stewie only getting 8 minutes? It seems like he should be
in a perfect world. I think they'd like to, but each game they're gonna the matchups are different, and they're gonna scout and game plan differently for each opponent. They're lucky enough to have a wealth of talent to go. They have 9, 10 playable guys. They can play any way. Very rarely are you going to find an opponent that can morph into 3 different ways. Hurley said it in his presser this week. There's a lot of teams that try to play multiple different defensive ways, like man-to-man, zone, and a couple of box sets. Very few can actually do it successfully.
Right.
So we got Bernie in the mix here. Bernie, before I unmute your mic, what I will say is I'm not as concerned about the box score with minutes because you're right. You only got 5 from Jaden Ross. Jalen Stewie had 8. Yusuf gave you 8 good minutes. Aiden played 6 minutes. Look, man.
I think that part of the game plan was to play Diarra on Johnson all night.
Yeah, I mean,
it's also a team of necessity. It's also like a lineup of necessity at this point. And right now with Alex back, you got a full 40 minutes out of him, which is great. So, all right, Bernie, what you got?
Okay, at first when I looked at the screen, I noticed the big black box with like the no face, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm in the movie Unfriended." It was really scaring me. But anyway, but this was a spectacular win on the road. This was probably one of the best wins on the road they've had in a long, long time. To play in that atmosphere like Moody Coliseum to get that win, that was impressive. Wire to wire. The first half. They just looked like the best team that was like last year's team, just reincarnated.
It did look like that a little bit.
Let's just safely say the demise of UConn basketball. I mean, people are talking about it. Let's stop talking about it. This team is right there, just starting to get their bearings in gear right now. Now they got Caravan back. This team is good. I mean, Kansas lost again. Another storm rolling in once again. Kansas loses at Missouri. It's like I said this repeatedly over and over again to myself. There is not one team this year in college basketball that is definitively above any other team. Anybody can beat anybody else on any given day. It has happened to Kansas. It has happened to Gonzaga, Duke, Auburn, you name it. Every single team. The week before, like about 80% of the top 25 lost. Mm-hmm. This year is unlike any year I've ever seen, with the amount of teams losing already 2, 3, 4, 5 games. North Carolina is 5-4 this year. Who would have thought North Carolina would be 5-4 this year?
Not Gary Parrish.
Not. I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's insane. But to see this team like grow up in the last 2 games, where at the M word they struggled. But to see them mature in the last 2 games and seeing Caravan get his first double-double of his career, that blows my mind. His first double-double, he's played like 50 years. It's insane to see him get his first double-double. He was spectacular. This UConn game and team is really starting to get good. And if I'm Gonzaga, I would be very, very worried If UConn starts making their shots and start playing the way they played tonight against Texas, and by the way, the score is not indicative of how dominant UConn was tonight. I never thought Texas was ever going to make a charge in this game. When they were down 18, they basically really had no gumption of trying to get back into this game. And I think
UConn withstand some blows in the second half. I thought they were up 18 to start the second half, and I think they go to UCEF for some kind of uncharacteristic extended minutes at the end of the second half, and he racks up 4 fouls in 8 minutes. But that was it wasn't out of necessity. It was more so we're up 18. Let's just get to the half, and then in the second half, bludgeon them with our starters that are 2 starting centers that have 2 fouls apiece, and the game should be a cakewalk from there on out. It wasn't. Texas shoots 47%. Yet another team that seems to just shoot the lights out against UConn. Maybe that's a byproduct of some of their deficiencies defensively. I don't know, but only 21 of 50 from the field, 42% for Texas. So they didn't get much inside. So
8 assists, just 8 assists on 21 field goals.
I think
one assist in the first half. Completely.
That is dominant. That is the UConn that we saw the last 2 years. And like I said, this 100%. Team is starting to find themselves. And if they keep on playing the way they are playing, I wouldn't be surprised if UConn once again is back in the top 10 by mid-January, because this is how good this team can really be.
You get me fired up, Bernie.
That's right, I'm fired up. Woohoo! UConn, UConn.
Wow, look at Bernie with the UConn chin. I love it, man. I hate to drop.
All right, guys, you have a great night.
Another guy, but that was dope, man. I appreciate you.
I don't think rankings matter, but I do think if they win their next 2 games, they'll be in the top 10.
I totally agree. All right, last guy, unless just kidding, doesn't have your mic on. Sorry, man.
Let's talk about what you just said. UConn can storm back into the top 15 over the next week.
They'll be
I think they'll be around 18-ish, 18 to 20. They maybe a little higher. They take down the top 15 team. So maybe it'll be 15-ish, maybe between 10 and 15 come tomorrow. They beat Gonzaga next weekend. They could storm right back into the top 10. So, you go from number 2 to 25 back into the top 10 within 2 weeks. Not bad.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Absolutely. All right, boys. Look, I mean, I'm gonna hang for like a couple more minutes in case I've just put the link in the chat one more time. But bottom line with this game is, I agree with Bernie. Like, I literally was sitting there watching, and I was saying, wow, this team looks a lot closer to what we've seen in the past. I will echo Tyler's concerns, which are this team's supposed to be really deep, but also every coach, I think everybody would agree with this. Every coach wants to have a tighter rotation. So if you don't have to like tinker and like grab a guy and bring him in, you're happier. So like I think that's what Dan Hurley was showing tonight, which is I'll throw in Aiden for some minutes. I'll throw in Jay Stu for some minutes. Terrace is obviously part of the rotation, but if I don't have to give you Jaden Ross for 25 minutes, I won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because Alex Caravan's playing well. He's not in foul trouble. He's got 21 points, and he's shooting the lights out. Same with Solo. Like, Solo didn't struggle tonight. I thought Solo, and I don't know what the metrics will show on defense. I thought he did a much better job on defense tonight.
I did too.
So
he stood tall in a couple possessions. His guy almost not beat him, but slightly got around him, and Solo sprints.
That's okay. Like, I'm cool with it.
Solo sprints to the baseline, gets back in position, puts his chest out, arms by his side. I was like, okay, this guy had a week of practice. He looks a lot better on the defense end. And one more thing about Solo. Coming into the season, I did not know he was going to be the second coming of Jordan Hawkins. The way he's playing, it's like he just played behind. Yeah, man, just coming around these screens. Like, he's shooting the ball really well, but his play style, we saw him play early last year. We saw him play early last year. He's been so good early this season, just sprinting around screens, and he shooting the ball with confidence, and he's been one of their best, most reliable scorers so far. They get down a few possessions in a row, maybe some sloppy play. He sprints around a screen, pass right in the chest, confident in the guy's face, whether he's open or not. He's knocking it 45% down on the year.
It's crazy to think that the team last year didn't have any minutes for him, right? Like it's like night and day. It was in the Rhode Island scrimmage, the first game of the year. He came off a screen and literally his feet just squared straight to the basket, and he was
Boom.
already shooting the ball. I was like, holy shit, that looks like Hawkins. And he's a better athlete than Hawkins. So I was like, oh, Solo has
the sophomore leap we all talked about all offseason, hoping it would come. It might be even better than we thought. We're through 9 or 10 games. He's looked tremendous. And this season keeps going the way it does with these guys maturing and just getting better every single day at practice. He could take another step later in the season and be even better. Who knows? We'll see.
I do think this rotation, I think Stewie should be getting more minutes. I feel like he deserves more minutes the way he's playing. Like, I feel like he's learned, he knows the offense better than some of the other guys. He's looking for things and he doesn't hurt them anywhere. But I do think that this team I think Ross needs to emerge. Like he's the type of guy that this team could use, because they don't really have that sort of Alex and Liam are good defenders, but they're not like the guy that you can just put him on a guy and assign him to, right? They're not athletes. And I feel like Ross, he needs to emerge. He's making a lot of kind of stupid plays. I sent you that another video, Mark,
playing a little
cross court pass. Is it didn't get picked, but that's the type of pass you don't need to make that pass.
Right.
I think Stewie's minutes late in the season last year kind of put him in a better position to come into this season a little bit more mature. Jade Ross didn't play at all last year for the most part.
No, he didn't.
Nothing meaningful. So he comes into this year trying to carve out
so that's what I think it is. It's kind of he doesn't know, he's not in the flow of the game, but we can't have.
It was Solo early.
I think ideally you want Alex playing 30.
Solo early last year got the same type of treatment that Jane Ross is getting this year. We're going to give you a shot.
Yeah.
We know what we're getting from everybody else for the most part. This team a little less so than last year's, but Jaden Ross got a chance early this year through the first 10 games, and he's not shooting the ball well particularly, but I think Jalen Stewart, the way he was kind of set up last year late in the season, has those big moments in the Big East tournament, probably comes into this season a little bit more confident and with the flow kind of, and knows kind of what to do out there a little bit more, just a little bit. But I think early this season is almost like a trial run. You use the 4 or 5 bye games and the Maui and some of these non-conference matchups to test some things, tinker some things. Then you get into conference play and you try to just whittle that lineup and that rotation down to 8, maybe 9 guys.
Yeah.
So before we go, this was a question that was asked, and we're going to talk about outside of UConn, the rest of college basketball. Tennessee and Auburn are really good. Duke is about to beat Louisville after being down early. Bernie had this question: has Tennessee played anyone this year? I'm going to give you the rundown.
Yeah, no one too tough.
So Duke is playing on the road against Louisville. I know so for a grain of salt, Louisville at full strength, because they're down 2 guys that tore their ACL, is playing Duke, who has looked good this year and had some big wins. But Tennessee beat this same Louisville team with 2 extra players who are impactful for them by 22 points on the road. Then you have them beating Virginia by 22 points, neutral site. Then they played Baylor at home, beat them by 15. Syracuse by 26 points. Tennessee is really good. They've had some deficiencies over the years because they are a very defensive-minded team and have played kind of that Dalton Connect hero ball-ish with their coaching staff. But I will tell you, because my wife is a huge Tennessee Vols fan all through and through. She's literally from Knoxville. This team they're a legit team. They're going to be number 1 in the country. And they deserve it.
They're big.
They deserve it. They're physical.
Yeah.
They play in the SEC. They're going to play really good teams all year. If they lose, which they're bound to at some point, like every team will. I saw a comment: the number 1 seeds will have 5 and 6 losses this year. You're probably right. Let's put that up there. I think it's just a comment. Guys, this season, this college basketball season is wide open, as wide open as that's been in a very long time. And it's because UConn didn't do, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go portal heavy and get 3 or 4 seniors to come in and augment their entire team. They're doubling down so they can build something through they're building a quote unquote mini dynasty. Okay. And so no teams are doing that. Even Kansas, today, they have all these portal guys. They probably spent $15 million in the offseason, and they're losing to Missouri on the road. No disrespect to Missouri, but I don't know if you guys watched that game. That was so brutal. And Fran Fraschilla, I have to give him so much credit today. was like, you got to hit that shot. You're getting paid way too much money to not hit those big shots. And he said, and he also caught himself and said, I don't think I've ever said that on a broadcast before. And his partner
How about the bitter irony of Kansas wiggling their way out of playing at UConn this season to play that Missouri game and lost?
Why would you bring that up? Why is that?
Man, come on.
Why would you bring that up, Dan? Why would you bring that up? Hey, so for the people that don't know about that, Kansas allegedly ducked UConn to play Missouri, and the reason they gave is they wanted a more flexible, kind of like closer to home schedule, right? So they played Creighton instead of us, and then they went because they were going to play Missouri, and then obviously they're going back home for the Big 12 slate. I think they still ducked us. I was in a Zoom call with Dan Hurley and my guy, Adam Zagora from Zag's blog, who is a good friend of mine and has been really great with our show, asked the question to Dan Hurley straight up in the Zoom call and said, there's some people that think that Kansas ducked you. What are your thoughts? And he laughed and he said, someone showed me that. I think he said someone showed me the Barstool article before practice. And he's like, I don't think they ducked us. He's like, because he's like, that's typically not something that, like, he's like, we talk about that internally, but a lot of coaches don't like deal with that essentially, right? So he was very nice and also very not even sidestepping it. He was typical Dan Hurley. He just said, I don't think they're like sidestepping us because, by the way, he also revealed in that same conversation, if they did, he also wouldn't say it because they're trying to do it home at home with them. So if Dan comes on a media availability and goes, yeah, they totally ducked us and they're cowards. Well, guess where that home at home goes? It goes in the drain and they got to do it. So look, as much as we know that Dan is very honest and very forthright, he's not going to throw Bill Self or Kansas under the bus. So for those of you that are in my mentions like, oh yeah, so you probably shouldn't call Bill Self a coward because he did this, this, and this. I'm 100% still calling Bill Self a coward because they 100% ducked us. That gave me more, like that actually gave me more proof that he was just like, oh, but by the way,
Mark, if you don't want to take the blame for it, if you don't want to take the blame for it, I will. I wrote all those Twitter captions.
Thank you.
Come see me. Come see me.
Yeah, Dan runs our social media, so if you want to get at him, get at him. But no, like I just have such an I just think it's so funny, like we have one of the most authentic coaches in college basketball, and even on that call, I could just tell he was just like, yeah, that's really funny. I just heard that. Like, look, it's a story. I'm happy that people.
He's not going to dive into that one after all the hoopla after Maui.
He's just not going to do that with the Maui stuff.
Get back to work.
Yeah, it was, and I appreciate you being on the call. So, but look, this UConn team, it never left. I don't even want to say we're back because it just never left. They were in a bad stretch.
The culture's still there.
Did we really think, like anybody that's listening right now, did you really think that Dan Hurley was going to lay down and not have his team ready for Baylor and Texas and now going into Gonzaga to potentially go 3-0 in this incredibly crucial stretch? Like we have house money, guys. If by some chance, which is not going to happen, we lose to Gonzaga, so like we're in a good place. Last comments from you guys before we go.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm not positive if I'm going to be at Store South for the Gonzaga game. I'm going to try to get out there, but this team's on the right track. We don't have to talk about Maui anymore. We've got 2 really nice wins in a row. They're storming their way back into the middle of the top 25. They're going to go up in the net rankings as well with 2 quad 1 wins in a week. That's big. We talked about that last week, how we need to build a little bit of a resume going into what seems to be less than stellar Big East this season.
Yep.
How many big quad 1, quad 2 wins are you going to even have the opportunity to take in the Big East slate? So if they can win this Gonzaga game, they're going to get a lot of help later in the season in seeding on Selection Sunday.
Tyler, last thoughts before we drop off tonight?
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. I have a wedding this weekend, so I don't think I'll be able to watch the game live. I'll see if there's cell service. I have YouTube TV.
Is it your wedding?
No, not my wedding. I'll be in Florida for that. Yeah.
Where in Florida?
You're going to Florida for your wedding, but where are you going for this wedding?
No. Yeah, Sarasota. Yeah, my buddy's wedding
Nice.
from.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, man. Like, I'm so jealous because I've been called baldy like 100 times already. Your head of hair is like beautiful.
Phenomenal.
Dan doesn't have
Phenomenal
a good head of hair either.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
We're flowing.
I mean, no, you
We're flowing,
don't.
baby.
I mean,
Yeah,
not
no,
really.
like, yeah, my girlfriend says, she likes my hair.
Oh, I
I'm
had to
gonna
ask
throw
you.
I'm
How
throwing
was
some clay pomade in this for the next show.
I have to ask Tyler. How was the Thanksgiving? Didn't you meet your girls' parents for the first time?
No, I've met them several times, but
Pardon me.
Yeah, no, it was So yeah, we've been dating for a while now, but it was crazy. 28 people and a lot of kids. Yeah, it was big, good fun though. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there. Tyler is absolutely a preferred guest. He comes on all the time. We talk all the time on X, and he sends me stuff. Tyler is a 100% friend of the show. If you want to jump on, you're like literally speed pass. You come to the front of the line.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll try to get on Saturday because I do want to see this game. If not,
yeah, man.
I'm definitely watching the rerun. So,
all right, listen, guys, this has been a great show. I really appreciate everyone that jumped on. We had a bunch of engagement tonight. We got like a couple hundred people jumped on the show. A few people jumped in and gave their thoughts. There's some usual suspects. I don't think we had any new people, but that's okay. If anyone wants to come on the show, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, you do not have to show your face. You can be as anonymous as Spaces. You can think of it as a live radio show. But
shouts out to Bernie for firing us up.
Yeah, Bernie.
Fired
burn,
up.
baby, burn.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Wire to wire win for UConn. I'm going to drop off everybody and say this. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, saying, listen, we're not back. We never left. You don't even have to say Maui because guess what? What's Maui? Because we're in the regular season now. Go Huskies.